everybody. Thank you for joining us. So I am here with the lovely Adam. I'm going to interview him about his series. The series you're going to be talking about is the Mantis variant, right?
Yeah. Indeed, yes.
Awesome. I have just to let everybody know, I have his Amazon author page in the description, so you guys can easily click there. If this sounds like something that you might be interested in, you'll be able to find it easily.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Of course. I have already read his first book, and his second and third I'm planning to read them this month. I am almost done with my current series that I started first, so I wanted to finish that. But I'm on the last book that's published right now. So after that, I'm going to continue his series, and I'm so excited because I absolutely loved book 1, and I think you will all love it too, especially if you love horror.
It is definitely horror, that's for sure.
Yes, it was. I absolutely loved his first book, and I rated it 5 stars. You can find my review.
There it is.
There it is. It was so good, and I'm so excited for books 2 and 3. Do you want to say something about yourself first before we get into the questions?
Sure. So, hi, I'm Adam Andrews Johnson. Yes, my series starts out with the Mantis variant. This is the first book. I've also written, as Johara said, books 2, the Mantis Equilibrium, a little reflection there, Mantis Equilibrium, that's book 2. And then the newest release, Mantis Corruption, is book 3. That's one recently came out, and I've been working on book 4, which is totally exciting, and we'll be talking about that some today. So yeah, they're all available on Amazon. Yeah, there you go. Cool.
Didn't you say on Twitter that you finished the first draft of book 4?
I have finished it. Yes, I started. I'm at chapter maybe 5 editing right now. I'm on my way through. Yep.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, so you ready to get into the questions?
Let's dive in. Yeah, fabulous.
Okay, question 1. What's your WIP about? If it's a sequel, or you can talk about the overall story, including previous books.
Cool. Yes. So my work in progress, book 4 is called The Mantis Continuum. It's the first 3 books are definitely grimdark. They're very kind of brutal and horrible. And this 4th book has a little lighter side. It's more eldritch horror rather than grimdark horror. So I'm kind of excited about that little change. But let's get into the story. So the Mantis variant tells a story primarily of 3 characters with a few others that add in as the story goes. Agro, Dozy, and Ilya. And they live in a world where a small percentage of humanity has started developing a special gland in their brains where the pituitary gland is. Sorry, where the pineal gland is. Sorry, gotta get things right. The pineal gland is up there. And instead, a small percentage have started developing a new gland there that gives them superpowers, like superheroes. However, in this world, if you murder one of these people, you can chop off their head, smash it open their brain, take out their pineal gland, and eat it, which is gross, I know. But cannibalism is a main part of the theme of the story, and we're talking about that as we go through. So if you eat the gem, you can steal powers from them. Not exactly what they have, but you can steal powers, which is a major issue in this world. If you have these powers, do you stay hidden, or do you use them and share who you are? So a lot of stuff happens in books 1, 2, and 3. There's a big major confrontation. Some people die. Yeah, so book 4 takes place after things have started to improve a little bit. The world the world takes place in the future. It's dystopian. It's already sort of a fallen society. But the villains who have sort of been in charge of things for a long time eventually are, I won't say overthrown, but they're at least pushed out sort of town for a bit. So there's some peace in town and things are changing. And it allowed me to, in book 4, it's what we're getting to, it allowed me to talk about some different characters and the way that they kind of interact. And I put a few of the main characters from this first book and one of the main characters from the second book through something really horrible in the 4th book. And I'm pretty excited about that because they end up making decisions that I think some readers are going to be very upset about. And I'm excited to see how people get upset or support them or excited about them. There's also some interesting weird children in my fourth book who are main characters. I bring in a child in the second book who's sort of a secondary main character. He sort of kicks the story off and leads it, and then that leads us back into our main characters from book one again. And book four, I really focus on these two children who are brother and sister. They go through something, and their life changes quite a bit. And yeah, so I finished that draft. I love it. There's a couple other cool characters in there we can talk about in a bit, but the two children are really unique, and they were a lot of fun to write, and they have some special powers that somebody's trying to steal and murder them and kill them. So yeah, so that's all going on.
That's a lot of fun. You murdered my favorite character in book one.
Oh, I know. And yeah, I'm totally giving that spoiler away. If you're reading the book, I'm sorry, but Agriel totally gets murdered at the end. That's not what happens. She sacrifices herself. She gives up. She's hated by a lot of people, and then she sacrifices herself and saves them. And I love it. It's so good. And it led to book two. I knew I know we're going to get into some of these questions, but I knew that I was going to kill her when I created her character. I knew what she was going to go through. I knew that her struggle was going to be tough, and I knew that she was going to die at the end of the book, and I knew that was going to be book one. So the story of book one is all about Agriel. However, as I got to the end of the book and realized she was dead and I had all these other characters, I was like, I have to talk about them mourning. So I put 5 separate epilogues on the end of the book talking about how they go through their own grief and their struggle and their denial of it, and then sort of acceptance and reunion, and that led to book two. I was not planning on book 2 or 3, and I wrote them immediately. Yeah, it was really exciting. And book 4 has sort of come a little bit more slowly, and I've taken my time with it, and it's been a really fun process. But yeah, so that's them.
Yes, I loved Agriel. She was so sweet, and she tried so hard to help people despite the community she was from, and I absolutely loved her. I really liked her relationship with, I maybe pronounce her name wrong, but Lahari?
Lahari, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you intended this, but I kind of thought there was something going on between them, maybe more than friendship. I don't know if that's what you intended, but that's kind of the vibes I got.
In my book, I know there's a question about romance coming up, and we'll talk about that. But in my book, I chose to leave most elements of romance out, and we'll talk about relationships because there is some stuff of that. But I chose to leave it out and leave it ambiguous for the reader. And if a reader saw emotions and connection between people, I want that to happen. I think that's awesome. But if somebody's reading it and they don't pick up on that, I'm also okay with that. I like the idea that these are a bunch of badass characters who are trying to survive in a pretty horrible world. And yeah, they're making connections with whoever they make connections with. Yeah,
definitely.
Also, and just one little side note, my other book and my other series that's being released next year, The Starting End, that deals with human sexuality and gender identity and queer people, just sort of in general. And I put so much focus on queer relationships and the celebration of queer individuals in that story, LGBTQIA plus everybody. Like, I celebrate everybody I can in that book. That it's so much about relationships that I wanted this to be more about a story of people overcoming stuff and trying to get through stuff and survive together. So I left a lot of the heavy emotion out of the book, relationship emotion. I want there to be a lot of emotion, but the relationship emotion is missing, I think, in a lot of ways. So it leaves it up to readers to be like, oh, are they getting together? Yeah, I love that. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. And I like that. Like, I'm not a huge romance reader. Like, I don't mind romance in books, but a lot of times I prefer it as a subplot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just my personal preference. Like, so I definitely like when the main focus of the story is something that's not romance, or when the main relationship is something that's not romantic. Like the main relationship in your book was kind of the 3 girls and their friendship, and I really like that, especially in like horror or fantasy or something where you may not see the whole friendship aspect so strongly. And I feel like friendships are some of my favorite relationships that we just don't see enough. So I really like it with books like horror or fantasy or whatever, focus more on the friendships than the romantic ships.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to try and write some things that I hadn't read before. I wanted to write some things that I wanted to give representation to people that I don't see. I feel like we see a lot of the same things, like you're saying, in a lot of work. And so having people with different feelings, having people with different styles of relationships, I feel like that was a lot of fun to put in. I take a lot of influence from the world, and I put some of my actual friends like into the book. I gave them different names. I gave them, something makes them unique or whatever. But I've heard people say lines that I've put in my book. I've heard people make stupid decisions that I tried to put in my book. I tried to take from reality, so it's fun.
Nice. Okay, question 2. What is your MC like?
Okay, so in the work in progress, in book 4, the main characters are the 2 children primarily, and they're awesome and fun to write, and they're quirky, and they have really strong powers, but they're actually united, and they have to work together to make their powers work. So there's a little bit of struggle. They're not just God-level superhero characters. They're little kids who need to work together, and they struggle, and I don't want to give away too much about them at the moment because they're so quirky and so weird. I think I might actually read a section of that. But let me tell you about the other people, because they're going to meet up later with another little group of people who they're living in a sort of repressed society, and they're about to leave and go somewhere else, and they get to escape that area and they go someplace wonderful, they go someplace not so wonderful, and then they have some tragedy, and then they meet up with these little kids, and the kids help them. The little kids end up helping this group of they're older boys. It's like 3 gay boys. I think they're 17. I think that's what I made them. And that's what it's about. So the 3 boys leave this sort of rough place, meet up with the kids who are very unique, and the kids end up helping them. And that's a fun part of the story.
Nice. We have a comment here.
Ooh, yes.
Ellie says, united to make their powers work sound like such a fun dynamic.
It was interesting to write. And it's such a fun scene. I'll describe it. I'll go ahead and describe it. Okay, so in the world, these kids who have been born with this special gland up inside of their brain instead of their pineal gland, it doesn't activate until puberty. So they grow up not knowing that they're superpowered people and not knowing what their life is going to be like. And then at some point, something happens. Like Ilya, for example, in the first book, this is, I think, a pretty good way to help understand. When she hits puberty and she sort of is going through her puberty change, and her mantis gland, that's what I call them. That's what the name of the book is. Mantis is the mantis gland. When her mantis gland activates, it gives her the ability to fly. Now, maybe that's not a superpower. Maybe some people love that idea. Maybe, whatever. She can fly. She ends up flying in the morning, and she's, flying around. Her parents freak out. Oh my gosh, our daughter's one of these people who is part of this other group. In my world, they're called shifts. They've shifted from humanity, and they've been given this nickname. So Ilya is a shift, and she's changed, and one morning she can't fly, the next morning she can fly. That's sort of how abrupt it is. Lahari, who you mentioned earlier, is a biological shift where when her mantis gland, not only did it give her powers, but it also changed her physically. Her skin turned blue. It developed sort of a scaly, reptilian sort of look. She developed these spines that grow out of the side of her face. I think she's a very unique character. I love her. She's so fun. Now, on to book 4. These 2 children are a biological shift, just like Lahari. And at the beginning of the book, their mantis gland activates, and they change. At the beginning, the child is named Mai, and Mai is a little non-binary child. I don't let you know the gender. I don't tell you anything about that. It's just Mai and Mai's mother. And Mai's mother is very loving. Mai's mother has worked with the Unity Between Shift and Humans organization that is sort of a not-for-profit group that helps displaced shifts. They're sort of a group, activist organization. So she's sort of been involved with shifts her whole life. And she's very excited when it turns out that her own child, Mai, turns out to be a bioshift also. Mai starts to change, and Mai morphs into two separate beings, a little boy and a little girl. The little boy is, I never say the word zombie, but the little boy basically looks like a zombie. His mouth hangs open, his eyes are rolled back up in his head, his arms don't move. So he's this little like cute zombie boy, and his skin excretes this ooze, this slime that totally covers him at all times. The other thing, the secondary entity, is completely different. So Mai was a non-binary little child who was just a wonderful little kid, all normal. And then when Mai changed, they became this little zombie boy and a floating eyeball monster that has tentacles coming out of the sides and back of it. And it just has one single eye, and it can talk from the air all around it. It doesn't have a mouth. It just levitates around, and it's super girly, and its mother ties ribbons on its tentacles. And I just love her. And her name's Juna, and she's so fabulous. And she can talk. She has, everything that a little girl's personality would have. She's so bubbly and she's fun, even though she's just a floating eyeball with tentacles. Yeah, she's adorable, and she's my favorite. And her brother Fetch, the little zombie boy, he can't speak. He basically doesn't respond to anyone except his sister. He basically doesn't communicate at all. He's sort of like, at one point, his mother gives him some food he really likes, and he just sort of rocks back and forth. And she knows that's a sign of his joy. He's very reserved. Everything about his personality is completely retained. And when they use their powers, yes, they have to connect, and they have to come together, and they have to work together, and they struggle because of the difference of the two of them. Yeah, so that's a fun dynamic of the book. And thank you for pointing that out, because yeah, it was a lot of fun to write the two of them being cute and and so my books are so gruesome and twisted, and this fourth book is so eldritch and like Clive Barker monstery type stuff. Oh yeah, if we're making a comparison, this fourth book has definitely got that vibe. So yeah.
Sounds intriguing. Can't wait till it's out and I can read it.
Man, I talk a lot. I'm sorry. This is gonna take forever. I'm so sorry.
You're fine. Yeah, some of these interviews have been a bit longer. I think the longest was a little bit over an hour, because we were just talking a lot and having a good time. And then others, we didn't talk as much. They weren't much talkers, so it was only like a half an hour. So it really depends on the person and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't mind if it goes a little bit extra.
Good.
Talking to you is always a fun time.
It's always great to talk to you. Yeah.
Okay, so question 3. What are your other important characters like?
Oh, okay. So I've already mentioned some of them. The two boys, or three boys that I mentioned, they're like 17. One of them is a normal human. One of them is a shift, not a biological shift, but he was terribly beaten. He's all messed up. And the human is working to become a healer. He's not very good, but he managed to save his friend's life. So there's a good dynamic there. Yeah. I think we've sort of talked about them a little bit. So I feel like I've kind of answered that already. And I've talked about so many of the characters already in the other books. So yeah.
Because do you have like different main characters each book then? Because I know in the book 1 it was mostly the 3 of them, Agro, and and then book 3 is about these siblings. So do you have like a different main characters for books 2 and 3 as well?
Yeah. So book 1 is definitely Agro with Dozy, Ilya, and then, like you said, the addition of Lahari later in the story. Books 2 and 3 definitely focus around Dozy and Ilya, the two I don't murder as a writer in the first book, the two that survive. Yeah, they go on to have other stories, and each book I add more characters. So in the second book that you may end up reading this month, which is totally exciting, like I said, there's a child at the beginning of the story who sort of kicks things off, and he connects with Dozy and Ilya near the beginning of the book. And Dozy and Ilya are definitely still main characters that are driving the story. Lahari takes so I do add a few other characters who then are important to Lahari later in the book, but that's something separate that like I was talking about. There's the confrontation, and some of the people they're not completely overthrown, but they're sort of pushed to the side. The villainous leadership. That's that. A lot of that happens in the second book, and then the third book, I introduce several more new characters, and I also introduce a new land. So the first book takes place mostly in Teshin City and the surrounding area. The second book expands to a little bit more of that surrounding area, and the third book, I add a completely different country into the story, and then I allow them to connect. And the third book, there's a witch who's awesome. There's a super nerdy organic healer who I feel like my editor really liked her. She was so fun to write. She's sort of a know-it-all, but in a fun and sort of positive way. And then there's two children in the third book who are child soldiers who have grown up in a really, really horrible background, and they managed to get away and connect with Dozy and Ilya. And again, the story picks back up with Dozy and Ilya, and so the third book has them. The fourth book, it spends a lot of time talking about these two weird children, the tentacled eyeball and the little zombie boy, and I spend a little time talking about the other three teenage boys who then connect with them later. And it's not until maybe halfway through the book that we then connect with Dozy and Ilya. No, that's not true. That's not true. Sorry. Ilya does do some stuff earlier in the story. She plays a main role in book 4. Dozy a little bit secondary. She doesn't come in until much later, and she sort of gets pissed off at everybody, which was a lot of fun also. But yeah, Dozy and Ilya certainly play a central role through all 3 of my first books, and Ilya and then Dozy, they get sort of not overshadowed. Just there's so much more story I'm telling in the fourth book that they get brought in later. But yeah.
Nice. All right, question 4. If your MC has a love interest, what's their dynamic like?
Well, and so we've kind of talked about that too. There's not really love interest, but Dozy, Ilya, and Agro, especially in the first book, they're bonded. They bring Lahari in, they're super bonded. Yeah, and then I add some other connections. Oh, my drag queens. Oh, we haven't even talked about my drag queens yet. Auntie Peg. Oh my God, yes, Auntie Peg. So Auntie Peg is the drag queen that lives inside of me.
I loved Auntie Peg in the first book.
She takes on a much bigger role in the second book, and then this fourth book, she's got a big role with those kids later on. She's taking care of the kids for a while the Mystic is doing some stuff. Oh man, yeah, that's fun. The drag queens. There's a whole drag show in the second book. Let's see. She's got a partner in the third book, another drag queen, and them. They're living together in the third book. You find out. So yeah, the drag queens are awesome and fabulous, and they're important also. I don't even remember what your question was. I just started talking about them.
I asked about the MC's love interest.
Relationships, yeah. So the main characters don't have romance relationships spelled out. They're very close. They all sleep in a communal area together in this secretive basement where they've made a home for themselves in this rundown city. But I don't talk about them. I do have a gay couple who are married. I don't go into details of their intimacy, but obviously they're close. They hug each other. They kiss each other on the cheek or forehead or wherever whatever they're doing. And
you talking about the Mystic and his husband?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I liked them in the first one. You don't get too much into the relationship, like we were talking about. You don't get too much into a romance, which I'm totally fine with because we need more of other kind of relationships to focus on in life and stuff. But I did like what we saw of their relationship. They obviously love each other because they're married and they seem pretty close, and they raised a child together, so they were really cute.
Yeah, yep. Because Lahari is actually the Mystic's daughter from a previous relationship when he was with a woman, and at some point he's, found somebody who makes him happy, and it turns out that his ex, the woman, was not a nice person, and so that's a whole different side of the story. And yeah, but the two of them, Theolin and the Mystic, I love them. They were fun to write, and they play a role through all the books. They're in all 4 of my books. Yep. And like I said, Auntie Peg has a relationship that I mentioned. Her partner comes into book 3, but again, that type of relationship is not a super main focus of this story, since it's such a focus in my other books. So yeah.
Definitely, I get that. Auntie Peg sounds amazing.
Oh my God, she's so fun. And I talk about her clothes and her hair, and she's got sassy banter with everybody, and she says dirty words, and oh my God, I love her. Yeah.
And the married couple sounds sweet.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted. It's so common to just see a relationship of man and woman, they're together, and the parents of whoever, and whether it's a bad relationship or a good relationship, it's just always this. I want it to be just a good relationship like you might normally see, but it's two men. Done.
Exactly.
End of the story. That's it. Just a good relationship, two men.
Yes, we need more of that, where it's kind of normalized, you know? Like,
and that's all it's supposed to be. It's just normalized. Yep.
Exactly. And I feel like your series may have a small similarity to mine, whereas there is some prejudice and there's some dispute with, the people with the mantis gland. Like in my series, there's a dispute with different monster kinds and then monsters versus humans. But when it comes to sexuality and queer people, that is really normalized.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's the same in your world.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't want to write stories about queer characters overcoming things because of their queerness. I do tell
overcome other things.
we got all sorts of other shit to go through.
Right.
There's a brief moment of homophobia in the story when Auntie Peg is telling about her backstory, or somebody's talking about Auntie Peg, and she grew up in a very restrictive cult, very religious style background, and so I was just putting that in from my own experience and other people's experiences that are similar. It's not about the homophobia; it's about the religious people being horrible to this gay boy who didn't understand what he was going through, and he had nobody to look up to, and he ends up being a drag queen later, because he escapes the cult, and she's awesome. He's awesome. She's awesome. Auntie Peg says she accepts both he or she, so yeah, we're good with it.
Nice, yeah. Like, I don't mind, like, it's showing, like, a little bit, because there obviously is going to be those close-minded people, I think we should see more of it being normalized,
Yep, that's exactly it. I want, like you said, the reader to be like, oh, are these two girls getting together? And that not to be something that is a struggle in the story, Yeah.
Okay, so question 5, who, despite the love interest, is closest to your MC? What is their dynamic like?
Oh, well, and again, that's Agril, Ilya, and Dozy in that first book. It's just them. They're close. They live in this awesome little hidden basement together. They at the beginning of book 1, Ilya's injured. She's attacked, and they help her. It's very different than the boy I mentioned who's attacked in book 4. It's completely, totally different. It's not at all related to that, or even it's nothing like that at all. But they take care of her. They help her. They bring her to the Mystic, who ends up being so awesome and wonderful. And I'm spoiling this also, because everybody who reads is like, oh God, is the Mystic a terrible person who's going to try and kill one of them? And he's not. He's awesome. So yeah, I like setting up. And there's a question coming. I know I'm spoiling this too. There's a question coming about twists. I love the twists like that, like making people think, oh God, he's going to kill them, and then he ends up being fabulous, or Agril's the most wonderful, sweet person, and then I kill her at the end of the book. So yeah, brutal, terrible.
I did not see that coming.
Oh, yay.
I cried. I'm not even going to lie. I cried. I was sad. Like I said, she was my favorite character in book 1. I absolutely loved her. And then everyone's reactions too afterwards was just so heartbreaking, because they all grow to care about her so much, especially since a lot of them had bad feelings for her at first because of where she is from. And it's just, her death it broke my heart.
Oh, yay. That warms my heart.
That's what we want as authors, to break our readers' hearts.
Yeah. To make somebody feel that much is, I didn't know I was going to write something that was that impactful, that readers were going to cry so hard at that. But yeah, while I was editing through, I was like, wow, this is really emotional. I'm just getting teared up editing it and stuff. Oh my God. Yeah. And as a contrast, I smile a lot editing book 4. This one I'm working on right now, as opposed to feeling like emotionally sad. There are so many moments where I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I wrote this like happy thing in here. I don't know what I was doing,
Question Question 6. What is your world like? Is it similar to our world? Is it different? How so?
Okay, so yeah, I said it's a dystopian. It takes place in a rundown military fort that's been abandoned and turned into sort of a decrepit city. Lot of shanties, a lot of little shacks people are living in. Some people like Dozy have made themselves a home in some sort of abandoned building or part of a different parts of the city. There's a lot of military structures that I describe. It's all concrete. There's not a lot of plants. And then I do describe a little bit of the surrounding area. It's very forested all around. There's nobody clear cutting anything. There's some paths that lead to the different, there's some fishing villages and there's some villages up in the mountains, but most of that is just surrounded by forest. So yeah, it's like our world overgrown and in a busted ass city.
Nice. Question 7. If you write fantasy, what's your magic system? I mean, you have superpowers, but it's not really fantasy.
Yeah, the superpowers are kind of the magic in my world. Yeah, definitely.
Question 8. Do you like to write major plot twists?
Oh, that's it. Yes, I love fucking with my readers. I love it. I love messing with my readers. Yep. That death in the first book. Oh my God. Yep. Knowing it, because like I said, we're gonna get to how we write. I definitely plan. I knew when I planned her character that she was gonna die at the end, and even writing it, I was like, wow, this is sad, and I didn't know it was gonna be so impactful to people, but man, surprise, and I think I heard a lot of people doing that.
Yeah. Have you ever surprised yourself? Like you didn't imagine writing this scene, but then when you did, you even surprised yourself?
Because we're going to get into my planning, because I'm a total lunatic planner, but there have been a few things that when I got to that part of my notes and I was writing it, I was like, oh, I could do this. And I wasn't expecting that. So there have been a few moments, I can't think of them exactly offhand, because of the way that I plan things out. And then once I've added something to my story that I wasn't planning, I put that into my notes later so that it all matches up. Like I'm a total freak when it comes to this. So yeah. But sorry, we'll talk about that when we get to it. Sorry.
Okay, you're fine. Okay, I was just curious because I know like I'm in between of a planner and plotter, so it's like or pantser, and so it's like I plan some things, but I don't plan everything. So there's also like so many things that I just don't see coming until I'm writing it.
And it surprises you. That's cool. I will say I don't do it that way. The pantser way, and like I'm sort of the other end of the spectrum. But people who can write with that free flowing energy and just let it come to them, I think that's amazing. I'm amazed by that. Like some people think that one way is better than another. I don't. I think all writing styles are awesome. I think it's amazing what everybody does, and to just sit down and have an idea just pouring out of your head all at once. That's wild. That's totally cool. I definitely have to be organized for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great for either side because, like I said, I'm neither side. I'm in the middle. So I think it's great for people that can plan out every detail and people who can not plan out a single detail. I can't really do either because I feel like I have to plan the major things, but a lot of the other things I don't plan. And like I said, I tend to surprise myself a lot of the times.
They just come in. Yeah, that's cool.
So I definitely respect both sides of the scale, but I'm definitely in the middle. So
that's awesome. Yep.
Question. Oh wait, we have a comment. Has the emotion of a planned scene surprised you while writing?
Oh, yeah. I did not know how much. Again, to ruin the first book, I did not know how much it was gonna be. How sad it was gonna be to kill off that main character who is so sweet and all she does is care about everybody else and all she wants to do is help. And then I kill her at the end while she's helping people. And so yeah, that was surprising because I knew that was supposed to be my impact moment. That was what I wanted people to feel in that moment. And even I felt it, and I was more than I expected. So yeah, that was surprising. Let me think. In the other books, in the other books, my twists surprised my editor and surprised a few of my readers so much that really brought me joy. You know, that the freak out of the twists in those books made me so happy. Made me so happy. Yeah. So
Question 9. What tropes are in your WIP?
oh yeah, cool. Let's see. So superpowers, definitely that's a major thing that I loved taking and flipping on its head, because like we've talked about, I think tropes, typically most people use that word in a negative way, that, oh, I can pick out this trope out of this movie or whatever. And we as authors take tropes and use them. We make ideas from them. We twist them around. We flip them on their head. And that's what I feel like I did with superpowers. I don't think I read a lot of comics when I was younger. That's a major influence on me, comic book world. I don't think at any point you could murder the Flash and steal his power, or murder Superman and steal his power. So I wanted to have something that made it so these superpower characters like the Phoenix from X-Men or Cyclops, any of these characters who had these crazy powers, what if that didn't just make them so much more advanced than a human? They're more advanced than a human because they have this power, but they also are susceptible to it being stolen from them and being the victim and being a target. And I don't think that's ever in comic books, but that was a major thing that I thought would be cool, to take that trope of superheroes and make it so if you had a power, maybe you wouldn't want to be a superhero. If I show people I can fly like Ilya, are people going to try and kill me and cut my head off and smash my brain open, like I talk about so many times in the book? Like,
yeah, I definitely like the that twist to the superhero trope, and I definitely like when there's a trope. I mean, like you said, that trope is usually used in a negative way. But I think some people's issue is just that it's overused. But that's the why it's overused, because all these tropes are just so different and people like different things, you know? Like in my first 2 series, both of them have the Chosen One trope, which is one of my favorite tropes. Outside of Found Family, which is probably my other one. But
the big one in my work. Yep.
But there's a twist to the Chosen One trope in both of them. They're kind of spoilers, but we're both getting pretty spoilery in this live. So in the first one, the spoiler was kind of that Jasmine finds out she wasn't the original Chosen One. The original Chosen One got killed by the villain. So it made her that much more scared, because she's like, if the first Chosen is like, she's like second up. It's like, she's not as good as she was.
Chosen One. That's funny. That's funny.
And then the second one was that she was destined to stop what's going on, but she finds out that she can either go either way. She can either be the one to stop it or be the one to help it succeed.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that leads to confrontation and conflict and trying to make major decisions. Interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it brings a bunch of emotional turmoil. You wonder, like, am I secretly evil? Am I good enough? This and that. So
yeah. And I, like you just said, the enjoyment of taking a trope and changing it, I think that's such a oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's such a thing that we as writers do, creative people in general.
Yeah.
Take these ideas. Artists do the same thing. Take something they've seen and make it their own and different. Yeah.
Yeah. Question 10. What themes are in your WIP?
Definitely the Found Family. That's a major focus in all my work. I don't think. Oh, so Lahari and her dad, the Mystic, are kind of the only family members I can think of that are like close. Everybody else sort of hates their families and they're terrible families. And yeah, people get kicked out from their families. Ilya gets kicked out immediately as she's 11 years old or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, Found Family is always a huge thing in mine as well.
That's major. And that's kind of what you were saying. There's 3 main characters in the first book: Ilya, Agril, and Dozy. And then I wanted to bring them together, make them the Found Family, but I didn't want that to be the end of it. And so halfway through the book, you get Lahari, this other new character who's totally crazy looking, living underground, and she becomes part of the family, and she's a major force to bring the story forward. And then the next book, like I said, there's a kid who starts off the story by himself, and he meets up with them, and he takes the story on further, and he becomes part of the family clearly. And Auntie Peg is obviously close to the Mystic when you meet them. So yeah, that is so important to my writing. It's such a theme that's been in my own life personally, that it was important to write into the story.
Yeah, definitely. And
yes,
found family.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely. I know Ellie. She reads my current series, and she's told me that what her favorite relationship is some of the non-romantic relationships, and those are usually my favorite to write. I absolutely love the found family theme, and the idea of it is such an amazing.
And yeah, the connection that people make and the way that the dynamic between them all sort of evolves as they get to know each other better. Yeah,
definitely. Question 11. What was your inspiration for your WIP?
Yeah, I think it really had a lot to do with the tropes. I think that I wanted to see superheroes not be so super. I wanted them to be way more vulnerable and in a horrible way. What if we chop their heads off and eat their brains? You know, I thought that to me was kind of what kicked off the whole thing. And another spoiler: Auntie Peg that escaped from the cult. Agro grew up in the exact same cult, and she escaped by her own means. Totally different story. But the different communities, the different backgrounds that people had, and like Dozy doesn't trust anybody, and then I sort of reveal her family is kind of not great people. Agro wanting to help people because of her terrible background in this cult. It's all like, I feel like the dynamic between the characters relates to where they come from, and then their direction together allows them to grow into new people, and they get to sort of evolve as characters. As I add more people in, one of the characters sort of takes one of the children under their wing and like sort of helps them. You know, it's just that stuff they wouldn't expect. And Dozy ends up bringing in a whole lot of other strays at one point, other people that she's taking care of in her little basement area. Yeah, so yeah, sorry, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. I'm just
But yeah, I like that. I like how they, because of their past and stuff, they grow to become who they're meant to be, and I really like that. Question 12.
Which leads to, and all that leads to these struggling decisions that are being made in my work in progress in book 4 right now. Oh man, the decisions I'm putting them through, it's brutal. It's not as gory, it's not as twisted as the first 3 books, because they are twisted. But yeah, I'm being mean to my characters.
Yeah, I feel that. I know you're reading The Realm of Monsters, but wait till you get to the Vampire's Creation. There's a whole series of flashback chapters where you really dive deep into Khaleesi's past, which is mentioned here and there, but you actually get to see it full front, everything she went through, and it's just so tragic. Like, I surprised myself while writing those chapters. I was like, geez, I'm putting this character through hell. She may be the most tragic character I have ever written.
That's awesome. Yeah. Surprise, everybody. I'm also reading Johara's book. I am 45 chapters in, somewhere around 40 something. Yeah, I'm at that point, so it's
nice. I think there's like 50 chapters, so you're almost done.
I'm getting there. Yep, I'm getting there. Lot of confrontation, a lot of conflict. People are connecting. People are upset with each other. Yep. Nope. I know what's going on.
Question 12. We got a little bit into it, but now we can get more into it. Are you a plotter, pantser, or somewhere in between? If your WIP is a part of a series, how much do you have mapped out for it?
Okay, so definitely plotter, 100%. I architect everything that I write. I write detailed notes on the chapters. I write detailed notes on the characters. I write out timelines to keep track of what's going on. Yeah, and then when I'm actually writing, I write every chapter as its own separate Word document and save them all separately in a file that keeps them all organized one after another. So it's really meticulous and ridiculous. And then when I'm putting the document together, I just one by one take it, copy, paste, move it back and forth. I also, let's see, my editing process is almost as nerdy and meticulous as my plotting process. I have a fellow author and editor who reads my work to me aloud over the phone while I'm looking at it on the computer, and he goes, "Oh, you forgot a word right here. You've got the sentence, but you forgot the word the. You forgot an article right there, or your word ends in ing and it should end in ed. It should be past tense. Change that real quick. Oh, okay, yeah, we're running through stuff." Or you've said this person's name. You've said Agro 7 times in this paragraph. You can probably change it to a few pronouns, put her in there instead or whatever. We sort of work together like that. I've helped him read his stuff out loud. And then after I've done that, I have my phone really mechanically read my work to me. So it sounds horrible and it's awesome. And it's so helpful to have my phone read it so awkwardly, because I'm then able to pick up on stuff that me and my editor friend were not able to catch. So her voice reading the words all weird like this, it sounds strange, but it's helped me catch errors in my own writing, and it's just helped me. Yeah. So there's all these steps that I force myself to go through to get to the end of my nerdy planning process, from the beginning of writing notes through the editing, through all these steps of editing to the final product. And hopefully there are very few edits that I still need to make afterwards that, I'm hoping writers or readers will read my work and not send me a message and be like, "Oh, you misspelled somebody's name." I'm hoping that I've gotten through all that stuff. When my phone reads a name wrong, that helps also. Oh, I've misspelled it because it's a weird name, like Agril. I forgot to put an E somewhere in the middle of the name, and so then it pronounces the name funny. It's very helpful. But again, I'm such a meticulous nerd. I don't expect everybody to do it my way. Believe me, I understand how geeky I am with the way I do it. So yeah.
No, not at all. I think that's actually really smart, because I know that even a fresh pair of eyes can miss some things, because there's some things that are just so minor that you don't catch it. And I think that's really a smart way to make sure you catch everything or almost everything, Yeah. So yeah, I think that's actually a really smart way to go about it.
Yeah. For one example that will always stick out to me is the word returned. There was a sentence that was supposed to have the word returned, and when I read it, I didn't see the word. I saw the word returned. When my editor read it, he saw the word returned. When I put it through my editing software, Grammarly and all that stuff, it didn't catch an error. But when my phone read it aloud to me, I'd forgotten the letter R in the middle. So it said retuned, which is a correct spelling. It's not wrong. But none of us noticed that I'd missed that letter. But as soon as my phone read the wrong word aloud, it was obvious that I'd missed it. And I just went in and put that one little letter there. But now nobody's going to catch that error. It's just, it's a pain in the ass. It's meticulous. I get it. I'm sorry. I'm a lunatic with my process. Yeah.
I get it. In my first series, there was a character named Ben, and there were several times when I was writing the word Ben, like Ben, and I would forget E, so it looked like the character's name, but like not capitalized. And I did that a few times, and sometimes it was hard to catch it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's a tricky one.
Question. I forgot what question we're on. Okay, we just did 12, so we're on 13. Who's your favorite character to write in your WIP? If it's your MC, then who is the second?
Well, I definitely like writing those crazy, weird children. Those have been a lot of fun. I mention a giant character in book 1. I introduce another giant character in book 4. That's been a lot of fun to write. The floating eyeball with tentacles and her little zombie brother. I just adore writing them. They're all slimy and people are sort of cringy with them, and a few people are very accepting of them, which is an important part of the story because of the found family. So yeah.
Yeah, I know one thing I loved from read book one was like I said, I loved Agrel and Lahari's connection, and I loved how Agrel, like at first she was taken aback, but after the initial shock, she really didn't see Lahari as disgusting. And I know a few times through Lahari's thought process, she was surprised by it, and like when Agrel like grabbed her hands and stuff, Lahari was like, "This doesn't disgust you or something." She's like, "No, why would it?" And I just absolutely loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that's there's I wanted it to feel as real as possible. I wanted it to feel like something that somebody's gone through, like I don't know. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but like a burn victim who would maybe turn somebody's, oh my goodness, what happened to this person? The startled reaction rather than, oh, I'm glad you're doing okay. And Agrel just wants to feel everybody's accepted. She came from such a non-accepting background that, yeah, to have that moment of like, oh my God, this is startling. Let's be friends. Let's be friends. I can totally be friends with you. I don't know why we're so different, but we are, and we can still be friends anyways. That's what I wanted her to be, you know?
And it definitely shows like that. Like I said, that there's a reason why she was my favorite character in book one. So, and I loved how you wrote her character and her and Lahari's friendship, especially since Lahari felt like that so much. I think I'm not sure about her character moving forward, obviously, because I haven't gotten to books 2 and 3, but I can assume or theorize that she would start to accept herself more after Agrel's friendship. So I'm excited to see what happens with Lahari's character.
She plays a big role going forwards, yes.
Ellie commented again, a really cool method with the other author reading it out loud.
It's been world changing to my writing to have somebody do that, to hear your own turn of phrase, to hear the way that you write being spoken by somebody that, because I know exactly how my words are supposed to be read aloud. I know exactly how it's supposed to sound, but to have somebody else do it their way makes the story mean something different to me.
Yeah.
I don't think most other authors have this opportunity, and it's really an awesome opportunity, and I cherish these reading sessions I have with this guy. It's awesome because it's been so eye-opening. There's a saying, I think Einstein said, the more I learn, the more I realize there's more to learn, basically sort of the idea. And that's how I feel working with this person. He edits with me, I edit with him, and I've learned how to be, I think, a better writer, how to make my story flow better by having somebody work with me. Yeah, it's been really, really invaluable. There's nothing that could have been as good as having somebody help me work through my own books. It's wild.
Nice. Yeah, it definitely sounds awesome. Question 14. Yeah, what's the dynamic like between your MC and villain?
Oh, God. Okay, so in book one, because I looked at this question, I was like, okay, this is a complex answer. In book one, the villains are a whole group of people, and I don't think I name a single one in the first book. I think there's the principal Messiah. There's the Messiahs who view themselves as superior. There's the demi-fae, and the mystic is a demi-fae who has left that group. Auntie Peg is a Messiah who grew up in that cult, and she's left that. But the Messiahs are villains who they feel themselves as elevated above everybody else. Because they've murdered a shift, that's how they become a Messiah. That's how they give themselves that title. So it's groups of villains in the first book. In the second book, I do name one of the Messiahs, and I give him a whole important story, and I lead through what's happening with him, and that leads to more confrontation. But I sort of took a twisted approach as a writer. I wanted a villain who's sort of unredeemable. I wanted him to be a villain that you Like in the X-Men movies with Magneto, he's so tormented and so conflicted that there's a good guy in there. Magneto's got a good guy in him. He's just had such a horrible life that he's makes all these terrible decisions and wants bad things. He's not really a villain. He's really conflicted, and I love that. And so I wanted the twist on that trope to be, I wanted to present a villain who is unredeemable, who's the most horrible you could be, but I wanted to write him from a sort of relatable perspective. He's suffering. He's so sad. His friends have been murdered. He's totally upset, but he's the fucking villain. And he's done horrible things, and he's going to do more horrible things through the whole book. But I want there to be sympathy. I wanted the reader to like sympathize with him throughout the story. So I'm hoping that my readers of book 2, since it's more recently released and there have been fewer people to read it, I hope they're like, I kind of like this horrible person. I don't want to, and he's terrible. I kind of hope he dies. What's going on here? But I'm following him through the story. And he's sad, and I feel his sadness, and I kind of wanted that. And that's kind of the twist on that trope that I did there. So, but there's no interaction between the villains to answer the question. There's no real interaction between the villain and my main characters. It's more about the groups having confrontation. The Messiahs are villains. They're confronting the shifts and the humans who are friendly with the shifts. And then in book 2, this Messiah who is a villain, you're following his story as a not as a main character, but sort of as a secondary main character who's investigating these murders of other Messiahs. And he doesn't really come into conflict directly with the characters, but when the groups conflict, they're all sort of in the same place at the same time. Yeah.
Nice.
And book 3 doesn't really have a villain. It's more about the kids who are child soldiers. They've had such a horrible past, and they're escaping it, and what they have to go through is really horrible. And the witch I mentioned earlier, she's a lot of fun, and she has to go through something in order to see. She sees the future, and she's so awesome. But I won't tell you any more about that. And yeah, so there's not really a villain in book 3. It's the struggles of the main characters in book 3. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I like when it really shows the characters struggling. Like I know in my first book, I have a character in book 3 go through PTSD with what happened in book 2, and I know Kalista in my current series kind of has a lot of trauma that she's trying to deal with, especially in book 3 that I'm currently writing. So I really like when you do show their struggles and their inner conflict, because I feel like a lot of times, especially in stuff like what you and I write, where it's like all these bad things are happening, but they don't show the what's going on in the main character's head, like how it's affected them. And I feel like it's very important to show that, because they're obviously going to go through some serious stuff mentally or whatever, because they're going through a lot.
I feel like that's in movies, the comparison is the injury in a movie. Somebody gets shot in the arm. Oh my gosh, I've been shot. They survive. I'm hurt. And then by the end of the movie, they're like, yeah, everything's fine. I didn't get shot earlier, obviously. No, you need to be in a sling. You need to be like babying yourself and like, don't touch my arm, it hurts. Like, where's that at the end of the movie if you've been shot at the beginning of the movie? I like that. And that progress, that consistency, I feel like that needs to stay in the book. That we're going through stuff. This has happened. What happens in the aftermath of what I've gone through? I got shot. I need to be in pain later. I can't have been shot and totally be fine later. I go through something, it changes me. Yeah. Yeah,
definitely. Like, this might be a slight spoiler. I know you're close to the end of The Realm of Monsters, so I think you've already
Spoil away. Tell me.
But Isabella gets hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yep, she's bleeding out. I read the bleeding out chapter. Yeah, she's in bad shape.
Yeah, so she's bad, and she's basically in a coma for even some way into the vampire's creation. So it like really shows that she got hurt badly, and she's not going to be okay.
Oh wow, okay. I was wondering if she was actually going to die. You were going to kill her off at the end of the book. I was like, is this my cry moment? Am I gonna have to watch her die? Okay, so interesting. Okay.
There will be a death, but it'll be more of a shocking, you didn't see that coming death.
I can't wait. Yep. That's awesome.
Question. That was 14. Yeah. So 15. Without being too spoilery, what was your favorite scene to write in your WIP so far? You can be spoilery if you want to, because we're being very spoilery at this.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, and I thought about this because in book 2, the drag queen drag performance scene, it's a fundraiser, it's so fabulous. That was my favorite scene to write, and it's still probably my favorite scene to read in the second book, and I can't wait for you to read it because it's going to be so fun. Pointing the wrong books. You're over there. There you are. But in my work in progress, there's a lot of scenes that I'm finding that I edit now, and I'm just smiling my way through them. I had a lot of fun. The scene that I've already talked through, when the little non-binary child becomes the 2 monstrous children, that scene was so fun to write. There's the 3 the 3 gay boys. The boys go to a little like paradise island that once they leave this horrible place, like I said, they're in a very restrictive, very repressive society. And when they leave that, the first place they get to go is this super welcoming, open and welcoming community where shifts are living out in public, and everybody's just cool. And they have this awesome time. They're on the beach. It's like this little island. It's so fabulous. And then one of my gay characters, there's this older woman who's like waiting on them and like giving them drinks and like bringing them fried food and stuff, and they're having this great old time. And then she like makes out with one of these gay boys, and he's not expecting it and totally surprises. And I will say, okay, that's what I didn't think I was going to write that. I didn't plan that. I just knew they were going to have an awesome time. And I was like, what if this like old like sexy cougar lady like makes out with one of the boys even though he's gay? That would be so funny. And they're just like, and then they're like all sassy with each other, like, I can't believe you kissed her, bitch, what are you doing? Oh, and like, oh, it's so funny. Yeah. And that's what I totally wrote. So that was another surprise scene that I'd planned out, and then there was a little bit more on the end that ended up being fun. So yeah. And then they're all like, oh my God, is that the first time you kissed a girl? That's the first time I kissed a girl. And the other one's like, that's not a girl, that's a woman. What are you talking about? That's all woman, So it's just that was such a fun scene to write. Yeah. And every time I read it, it's fun. Yeah.
I'm excited to get to that. Question 16. If you're writing a series, do you like ending on cliffhangers? Do you plan to end on a cliffhanger in your current WIP?
Yes, I do a lot of cliffhangers. I try and use them occasionally at the end of chapters to make things like go, what's going on? The end of book 1, I feel like is so strong and so intense with Agril dying, and then everybody mourning her, and the epilogues of them going through their own grief. I felt like that was strong, and I didn't really leave a cliffhanger. There's nothing happening, but everybody goes home together. And I feel like that was a great place to pick the story up. And so in book 2, they all go on vacation. They all leave town and have a little like trip together. And that's kind of how it starts. And so in book 1, there's not a cliffhanger, but it directly leads into book 2. And then book 3, I put the heaviest cliffhanger I could possibly think of. I mentioned earlier, there's a healer nerdy chick who's so awesome. She's so great. She's in her workstation and she's helping one of the characters from book 3 at the end, and they're going through the stuff, and this stuff is happening. And then Ilya bursts in, and the last line is Agril, or not Agril, Alona. Agril's dead. Agril's been dead for 2 books by this point.
Did Agril come back?
No, she doesn't come back. That is not a spoiler. Agril's never coming back. Sorry, that's not happening. I didn't mean to bring anybody's hopes up. The nerdy girl's name is Alona. I didn't want to give too many names because I knew it would get too confusing, but Alona. Ilya bursts in at the end of book 3, and the last line is, Alona, I need your help. So that's pretty cliffhangery. And that leads to book 4, which is what I'm writing now. And that's why Ilya plays a major role in book 4. She kicks the whole thing off. She's doing this stuff. And like I said, we've got our monstrous little children. We've got our 3 gay boys running around the world and sort of globe hopping. But then Ilya, she sort of takes on a secondary role in book 4. But she's the one that sort of drives where everybody goes, how they all connect together in book 4. So yeah. So definitely cliffhangers. there's a chapter that ends in the first book that there's an explosion right at the end of the chapter. Yeah, so I try and do cliffhangers some of the time, but I try and put them at the end of stuff. Always at the end of a chapter that doesn't lead to the next. So you're spinning, going, wait, are those people exploding? What's going on? And I'm talking about some people on the other side of town doing something else. Yeah, so I do mess with my readers a bit in that way, I suppose. Sorry.
No, I get it. I love doing cliffhangers. Wait till you get to the cliffhanger in The Realm of Monsters.
Well, I think I'm getting close.
There's also a cliffhanger in The Vampire's Creation. Like I said, I love doing cliffhangers. I tend to do cliffhangers, sometimes very minor ones, sometimes more bigger ones at the end of the books up until the last book. Since it's the last book, I want to wrap things up, obviously, so there'll be no cliffhanger. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that when I was initially writing the first two books, I wasn't thinking about them as cliffhangers. I was more thinking about like how to end a chapter with a surprise. I guess that's technically what a cliffhanger is. But I want a lot of the chapters in the first book. I was just like, what will make a reader want to keep reading? And I didn't think of them as cliffhangers, but you're totally right. That's exactly what I was doing. I was putting cliffhangers into my book. I don't know why I didn't think of it that in that term. That's funny. Yeah. So there are definitely cliffhangers. I'm just an idiot, and I'm cool with that. So yeah.
No, it's fine. You're not an idiot. We all have our quote unquote blonde moments.
Our moments, yes, our blonde moments.
Let's see. So question.
We're getting towards the end of our questions. I know.
17. What's the scene you want to write in your WIP that you're excited for that you haven't gotten to yet? Though you have finished the first draft, so you've pretty much written all of it.
Right. Yeah, I have written all of it, but there are some scenes that I'm looking forward to editing that are coming up. Yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah. Question 18. What's your favorite thing to write about? A certain type of scene, like fight scenes or romantic scenes, and so on.
Ooh. Wow. What's my favorite thing to write? I guess with this series of books, it's very different than my favorite thing to write in my other series. In the starting and the other books that are coming out next year, there's so much about the interaction between characters that I wanted there to be a lot more focus on the story and the people come together and then have to do something. They have overcome something. I wanted to write really fast-paced. I don't want to necessarily call it action sequences, but people keep saying that the first 10 pages, my first chapter of this book, is the fastest thing they've ever read before, and that makes me really happy because that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted it to be, the chapter starts with Agril turns 18. She goes into the cult's like ceremony house, whatever you want to call it. There's this horrible ceremony where they
kind of like a ritual to me.
The ritual. They murder a kid in front of her. There's this child sacrifice. She's forced to practice cannibalism. It's a really horrible beginning of the story. But at no moment is there like every piece of dialogue is important. Every detail is important. I tried not to spend too much time describing everything. And I described so much in my first book. Everything is really, really descriptive. It's really about the connection of people, their feelings, the way that they view each other. And I took a lot of that out. I put very little description of the main characters into the book so that anybody reading can sort of make them look however they want. One of my author buddies, Fozzie, he likes to cast his characters, so he'll think of an actor or an actress and put them into the role of the person he's writing in their books. And I sort of do the opposite. I left my characters without a description of how they look, except for like Lahari, who's got very specific, unique descriptions. Agril's skinny, and I have them call her Skinny Girl a bunch in the book, and that's sort of her only descriptor. Dozy wears big, bulky clothes and doesn't want to be noticed for her physical body. She just wants to be an awesome person, and that's kind of who she is. Illy is tall and a little muscular, but I leave all the descriptors out of the characters. and I just wanted them to be doing things. At every moment, there's something happening in my books. I don't feel like I would spend any time with superfluous dialogue, and I spend a lot of time with that in the other book. Everybody's talking, everybody's trying to get to know each other. Again, how they view each other, how they feel, and I left all that out. It's just, it goes from the cult, the ritual, to her escaping, to Dozy having a hallucination, to Ilya getting shot. Like every moment, there's something happening in my book, and that's what I want. I wanted to write stuff happening.
Nice. Yeah. Question 19. What do you love most about your WIP and the series overall?
Oh, yeah, I love the characters. That found family, the way that they work together, the way that they overcome things, the way that they struggle. Yeah, Dozy living in the basement with the people that she's collecting. The Mystic and Thaylen end up moving in book 2 somewhere else so they can have other people living with them. Book 3, there's different people that end up living with the Mystic and Thaylen also later, and then they move on. And book 4 has some surprises. And to answer the question about this, yeah, okay, so spoiler for book 4. Yeah, spoiler, we're doing it. Auntie Peg and Dottie Marbles, my drag queens, are setting up a youth outreach relief center for homeless kids. And not only am I doing that intentionally in sort of like a big fuck you to people thinking drag queens can't read books to children and all that shit that's going on in the.
I love that you're doing that.
Yeah. So the drag queens run the children's home in my book, and they're awesome. And there's nothing weird going on because there isn't any fucking thing weird going on. They're just reading books to kids. So anyways, yeah, I threw that in my book really hard because I thought that'd be awesome. So yeah, the queens set up a outreach center where the children are going to end up living. So everybody who's sort of been living with Dozy, living with the Mystic, they're going to have this awesome place that the queens are setting up, that in book 4, they're going to have a safe place to call their own. That's yeah. And it's in my mind, it's kind of the reflection of an LGBTQ like youth center. And in Portland where I live, there are several queer community centers where it's just a safe space for queer kids. I wanted to take that idea one step further. These shifts in my world, these superpowered characters who are being hunted, essentially. I wanted there to be a safe space where the kids could go and grow up and actually live there, not just go temporarily and have a safe space, but actually live there and have parental units in these drag queens who are taking care of them and providing food, providing shelter. They play games. It's just a fun thing. And so, yeah, I love that that's happening in my book, and the development of where they're going. And I didn't even talk about the monsters that I introduced in book 3. That's completely separate things. Oh man, there's so much crap to talk about. It's crazy. I don't even know where this question started. We're on 19 and we've gone off to like 37. I don't know where we are now. So yeah, that's good.
But that's nice. I like that you added that. That's so awesome about the outreach center.
It was fun to write. It was what as I was developing it, as I was watching people in this country just hating on drag queens and all that stuff, and I was like, drag queens are such a key element in my books. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to make the drag queens take care of children. Exactly what they're doing. They're taking care of the children. I'm doing it. I'm glad you appreciate that because I spend a lot of time talking about all the homeless kids in my books. There's Ilya's homeless for years in some of the books. She lives in a shanty that falls apart in the first book. They're scrounging together this basement home, and the outreach at the end of book 4 is that moment when they reveal what they've been doing, and it's an outreach center for the children. Yeah. My editor hasn't gotten to that point yet, and I think he's probably going to pee his pants, and I'm excited about it.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely like that idea, especially with everything going in the world right now. Like, I don't understand why people think drag queens are
dangerous in some way. Yeah, no, they're fabulous in every way is what they are. Yes, come on.
I've never actually went to a drag show, but I'd like to check it out. I think it would be kind of cool.
Oh, please do. Please go to a drag show. Go to a drag show. And I'll be honest, most drag queens have no interest in children. The same way that I, as a queer person, have never wanted children, never. I started telling people in 6th grade that I was never going to get married and never going to have children of my own, and I never have. It just I knew that for me. That I could tell.
Yeah, that's completely valid. Like, it's okay if you don't want to get married or have kids. You know, that's your prerogative. And I know there's a lot of people, especially concerning women, like you have to have kids. It's your right as a woman. Like, no, me personally, I do want to have kids. I want to actually, but I don't want to like get pregnant or give birth or anything. I want to be a foster mom and help kids that don't have a family. That's kind of what I want. And I'm not sure if I'll get married. Like, I'm an aro ace lesbian, so it's like I am attracted to girls, but it's not really. I don't have that romantic attraction like most people. Is like very like minimum. So I may or may not find someone I want to marry. So who knows? But I do want to be a mom, and I do want to, help kids that really don't have anybody. So
yeah, if aromantic or asexual people view themselves in my characters because I left out the sexuality, that'll make me really happy. That's important to me, that the friendship relationship in these books, because I put so much focus on the sexual relationships and intimacy in the other books. In these books, if there are people seeing characters and going, oh my God, this person is totally aromantic or aromantic, however they view themselves, I would be so happy. That would totally make me happy. Obviously, Phelan and the Mystic are gay. That's who they are. But if other characters who I don't talk about and I just describe their friendship, if other people see themselves, that'll make me really happy. Yeah, so that's awesome.
Honestly, I kind of see Dozy. Am I saying her name right?
Dozy, yeah, Dozy.
Okay, I don't want to, say the names wrong because they are very unique.
Well, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I kind of see. I don't even know why. I just see Dozy as Aroace. Like I don't see her really being attracted to anyone or wanting a relationship, and I have no idea why. I just see her like that. So.
Well, I think there's a couple elements to that. I was really inspired by Billie Eilish, the way that as she was a young under 18 music producer, she wore big baggy clothes. She didn't want to be recognized for her body as being sexy, and people were trying to get her to dress in a certain way, and she was just like, fuck you, I'm doing my thing. And I think that's awesome. And I wanted to emulate that in Dozy, that she did not want to be sexualized. She didn't want to be viewed in a sexual manner. Dozy is awesome. She's got a lot of great characteristics, and I wanted that to be the focus of her. And my dog is right here, like whining at me. I don't know if you can hear him, but he's making all sorts of little noises at me. He's sitting here. But yeah, having Dozy, and even in book 2, there's a little hint that I think you're going to pick up on when I first bring Dozy into book 2. When you first, as a reader, get to her, she's waking up in the basement. She's with the other people that are there with her, and she wakes up by herself, and the other people wake up together. And that's all I say. I don't make it like these two were in a relationship and they woke up together in bed. I don't say that. But that line, when I read it, I was like, "Ooh, this sort of makes it feel like these two are in a relationship." And Dozy, just like you said, is not interested, and she's over here doing her own thing. And I love that. That makes me happy because that's kind of what I put into book 2. So that's cool. And again, because the relationships, the intimacy relationships are not important in this story, I didn't spell it out, and I kind of left it open that maybe she's asexual, maybe she's aromantic, and that's just who she is. And yeah.
Yeah, I definitely like that, especially since we don't get much representation. Like, we hardly get any representation at all, and that's why I make it a thing to write aro or ace or aro ace characters in my books, because like we need to be represented,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and I celebrate alternately abled people. I know disabled is the word. That word is sort of an issue these days, so I don't know what we're supposed to say. But I have one person who's struggles with having an arm missing at one point, and has to figure out new life after being injured seriously. In my other books, I have a person who's mute, who can't speak, and the struggles they have to go through. I celebrate people of size. I'm a skinny little queen, but I love everybody. One of my main characters in my other book is this great big huge chef who's really important. He's jolly and wonderful, and I love him. And I emulated that character and brought somebody very similar into book 4, the book that I'm editing right now, who's also a big sort of jolly character, and I just want to celebrate everybody. I don't want anybody to have to overcome shit for the shit we have to overcome in real life.
Yeah.
If my people are overcoming something, it's because somebody's head got chopped off, and that's what's going on. That's
how I feel, and I completely agree. I try to represent everyone I can. I mean, I obviously do very much queer representation, but I also do different races. Like Calista, she's half Greek, half Latina, which is mentioned. And
I gotta say, your way of describing her Latina skin, that skin tone, but being pale as death at the same time. Oh, that visual is great. I've never thought about that before, and that's such a great visual. Because you'd have to picture the person's skin tone as a corpse, which is awesome. And I don't think about that, because if you watch a vampire movie, and a Latin actor or a Hispanic actor is playing that person, a vampire, they're going to leave their skin tone. They're not going to make them deathly looking. They're going to leave. And a black person playing a vampire, they're going to make them look black. They're going to let them be black. They're not going to make them look a different way. They're not going to pull out their skin color. And to have you add that little detail into the story, I thought was brilliant. Thank you. She has this rich, this rugged skin tone that's rich and Greek and Latina and sexy, but she's dead. She's got no blood flowing through her veins. Yeah, I thought that was a very cool twist on your writing. That was good. Yep.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. But I'm not sure if you've gone to where it's mentioned yet, but it is mentioned that Henry is autistic.
Oh yes, I can tell he's dealing through neurodivergent spectrum stuff. Yeah, definitely.
So I also added that, and I feel like that's very important. And I actually have to disabled. Like you said, I'm not sure if I can say that, but I don't know how else to explain it. That they're disabled sisters, and one of them, she's not really mute, but she can't speak, just not well, and she can't say a lot of words. And a lot of people probably wouldn't understand her. We can only understand her because we're around her all the time, and we understand how she tries to say things. So, but like, if someone else would try to talk to her, I mean, first of all, she wouldn't talk to them because she is very. It's hard to describe her disability. She's just very, closed off. She doesn't like talking to other people. She only talks to people that she really knows very well. But even when she does talk, it's hard to understand her sometimes because of her disability.
Interesting. All that you're saying is your sister. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. All this stuff you're saying about your sister, actually, so my editor, while we're going through book 4, the 2 weird children that I've created, the little zombie boy. Like I said, I never use the word zombie. I don't use the term neurodivergent or autistic. I don't use those words in my book. But my editor got the impression that people were going to think that Fetch, the little boy, the zombie boy, maybe has Down syndrome or is some sort of handicap in that sort of way. But the way that you're describing it, it almost makes him sound kind of like he's got autism. He doesn't react to anybody. He doesn't talk to anybody. He only wants to connect to his sister, the weird tentacle eyeball monster. He only wants to connect to her, which I think is kind of like what you just said about your sister. That outside, he does not want to connect to outside influences. The mother brings them to a cafe regularly, and he's sort of okay with like the owner of the cafe. He's gotten used to that guy because he sees them like a couple times a week. But everybody else, any other strangers, he doesn't react to. He doesn't interact with them at all. And my editor thought Down syndrome might be a similar comparison, but your description of autism, I don't personally know anyone with autism, so I don't feel like I could represent somebody in my writing that way because I haven't had that experience close and personal. But but that's so interesting that the character I wrote kind of has something similar to that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it does sound like it, because that's definitely my sister. Like, she can speak, it's just she doesn't do it very well. And when she does, it has to be with someone she really knows, like people, like her family and stuff, people she knows and talks to on a regular basis. She's only now starting to actually talk to people at her school, and she's almost 18 actually. Next month she'll be 18.
Wow.
Yeah, but she can't take care of herself. So my mom's going to be getting a lawyer here soon and trying to make it so she is her personal care. Because she cannot take care of herself. She cannot handle bills. She may be able to do a small job like bagging things at Walmart, but something major she would never be able to do. It's just part of her disability,
Yeah.
So she goes to a special school and everything. So
that's awesome. Yeah, the world's not set up for that type of person, and so to have a special school, to have a special place, that's awesome. I'm sorry she struggles, but I'm glad that she's doing okay and doing her thing, and has you all to connect with. So
she has a good support system. Yeah, we're all there for her, and she might get special treatment here and there, but that's because of her disability. Like, there's some things like if my mom would make food and be like, you guys have to eat everything, and you guys cannot get up until you eat everything, which she doesn't do often, but every so often my siblings are stubborn and she's like, you better eat everything here if you want a snack or whatever. Even if she likes it, if she doesn't want it at that point, she will not eat it. She will literally sit there all day and not eat it. So my mom will make her sit there and eat it, because she literally will not if she does not want it. So she'll be like, you can make whatever you want and stuff. And there's times where she just stands there because she doesn't know what to do, so someone will have to help her. And it does become a struggle, but luckily she doesn't really have to be out in the real world. Like, she doesn't even really like going outside to play. She doesn't really have any friends. She just plays with her sisters. So it's not that bad, because it's all she's ever known. She was born like this, So it's not so bad. It's just we have to
make special accommodations and take care of her in a different way. Yeah,
exactly.
That's awesome. And the more you tell me about her, the more it sounds like my character has some very autistic tendencies. Wow. Yeah. Because he's the same way. I have a few scenes where like they're eating fried shrimp. So it's easy for him to get a hold of the shrimp and eat it and put it in his mouth. But when they're eating like stew, he has to have somebody feed him. He has to have somebody help him do these things. Yeah. It's just certain things he can handle and certain things he can't handle in my book. And wow, I may have to do some research on autism just to make sure I'm being sensitive with what I've written here.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It does sound like your character is autistic. Like,
wow. And I just meant to make him a little zombie boy, but he does have a major personality. He's not a zombie. He's not trying to eat brains. He's not a movie character. He just has this look. He's kind of got green skin. I wanted him to kind of be like, I wanted readers to be like, is he a zombie? I want that. I want readers to be,
Most people will probably assume that unless they are autistic or know somebody who is autistic.
And then they might see somebody different. I hope most readers are like, wow, it's a zombie. That's crazy. And other people are like, oh my gosh, is this something else? Yeah, that would be.
Or it could be an autistic zombie.
Could be. He likes coffee. He does like coffee. That's a little something he enjoys.
I have to get my password because we were talking. I let my phone shut off. Okay, so this has gone.
Oh my gosh, we made it to the end. Oh my gosh, yeah.
This is probably the longest interview I've done so far, but
I'm such a nerd and I can ramble. I'm sorry.
Me too. I am just like that. Like I said, the shorter ones were usually because the other person wasn't much of a talker, so they just went by faster. But when we're both talkers, it becomes loud. It goes longer.
Yep. No, this is awesome.
And I really don't mind. Like I said, I love talking to you, and I love talking about your books and my books, so it's all fine.
This has been so much fun. Yeah. And we're getting close to the end, but this has been great. Yep. It doesn't feel like it's been 90 minutes. I can't believe it's been 90 minutes. Right? I can't believe that. That's crazy. That's totally crazy.
Well, you know what they say, time flies when you're having fun.
That's so true. Yep.
Question 20. What are you most excited for readers to read once it's published?
Oh boy, fourth book. Okay, so this fourth book, it's so different than my other three books. My other three books, being grimdark and being so gruesome and violent, that's such a major part of it, and the overcoming the violence and getting through the violence. That this fourth book being like this weird, eldritch, mysterious horror stuff, it's so different, and having my these gay boys running around calling each other bitch all the time and stuff, that's been so much fun. I think that anybody who reads my books who knows a few gay people are going to see them in my characters. I feel like that's going to be fun for readers also. And the way, especially in book 3, when you get to book 3, the way that I tie the characters in book 1, they're all new characters, so I have to tie them all in separately. In book 2, I've got the found family, and I add a few characters who sort of tie in a little bit. In book 3, the way that I tie everybody together and the way that I bring the new characters with Dozy and Ilya and all of them, my editor freaked the fuck out when he got to that point. And one of my first ARC readers totally was texting me at like 4 a.m., like losing their mind. Yeah, so that moment of everybody coming together in book 3 is awesome. And when everybody's connected in book 4, I think that's going to be just as fun in a completely different way. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. The connection of characters back to found family. Yep.
Yes, I love found family. I love reading it. I love writing it. It's, like I said, one of my all-time favorite tropes. It's actually probably my favorite, with The Chosen One like slightly under it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and with me, the superhero thing is up there, and the found family, and in the other book, the queer celebration and found family are side by side. Yeah,
definitely. So I'm very excited for book 4, and I'm excited to read books 2 and 3 this month. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get all the indie books I plan to read this month, because I have a lot of indie books.
You have such a list of books. Yeah, it's crazy.
But I will be able to get to yours, I'm pretty sure, because like I said, I just have one more book of this series to read, and then I'm going to go to yours. So I'm so excited.
My test reader read through book 2 in one sitting. Sat down, started reading, and finished reading all at once. Like,
nice.
Yeah, so I'm hoping it's a nice fast reader for you also.
Yeah, I know I finished book 1 pretty fast. I think I started it like near the end of this one day, but since it was near the end, it was like right after dinner, so it's like I was going to bed soon anyways. So I read like maybe 4 or 5 chapters, but then I think I finished the rest the next day, if I remember correctly.
I think you did 2 days or possibly 3. Yeah, you read it also very quickly. Yeah, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to write really fast writing. I wanted it to be so absorbable and so readable, and one sentence, the turn of phrase needed to lead to the next sentence, so that you keep going, you just go and go and go. And yeah, I leave you with things going, wait, what just happened? I've got to keep going. That was all important to me. And so, yeah, I'm glad. And thank you so much for interviewing me. Thank you for being here and letting me do this and talking to me for so long.
I didn't mind at all. I've had a blast talking about your books, and now I'm even more excited for the rest of the series, if that was even possible, because I was already pretty excited.
Yay. And I'm going to finish your book this week, I'm sure. So let's keep going from there.
I hope you like it.
Oh, I've been loving it. Yes, of course.
I know you said you loved the food.
The food, yes. That I have not stopped thinking about the way that you food is not a trope. We don't think of food as a trope, but you totally flipped it on its head, like food is a trope, and I loved that. Yep, that was awesome. It was awesome.
Thank you. We don't get much food in the Vampire's Creation, because they are mostly in Athens, so they're in the mortal realm. But and the Queen of Monsters is primarily in the monster realm again. So I'm going to dive back into some more of the kind of food that we have. So be prepared for that.
Good. Yep. I like it. Cool.
Did you want to read a section of your book? Didn't you say you had a part? You don't have to. It's just.
Oh, I don't have to. I feel like we've talked so long. I've talked so much about it. No, that's totally fine. That's awesome.
Okay, so it's been amazing having you on. Ellie said, sounds like an incredible flow. So just to remind anyone out there watching that in the description, I have Adam's Amazon author page, so you can quickly just go. And if you liked what he was saying about his books, you can go and add it to your cart or buy it right now if you can. So I definitely recommend. Like I said, I read the first book and it was amazing. You have to be
Thank
okay
you.
with some gore though, just to warn you, because some people aren't, which is totally okay. Me personally, I love gore. The gorier the better. So I absolutely loved your first chapter because it was so gory and I loved every minute of it.
Yeah. My book doesn't have a content warning section because the first chapter is child sacrifice and heads being chopped off and brains being smashed. So you know exactly what you're getting right off the bat. You know it.
Yeah. So definitely check it out if that sounds like something you would like, because I absolutely loved it. And I'm so excited for books 2 and 3. I'll definitely be telling Adam how I feel about them once I get to them. And thank you all for coming. So see ya.
Hi, thank you.